I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Congressman Jim Jordan debated gun control legislation on the House floor Thursday. His remarks come after a string of recent mass shootings across the country have reignited the gun control debate. The Ohio lawmaker specifically called out a red flag bill, and he accused the legislation of robbing people of due process. Jordan urged his fellow Republicans to vote against the bill, which he described as terrible. Here's Congressman Jordan's full explanation.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We've heard time and time again, Madam Speaker, that the Democrats say this is not a violation of due process, not a violation of our constitutional rights. It most certainly is. Remember the basics here. Someone doesn't like you. They file a complaint. There is a hearing within 24 hours, a hearing that you're not allowed to attend. You're not allowed to be there to face your accusers. The government takes your gun or guns. Several days later, there's a real hearing. Well, a real hearing with a lower standard. The burden of proof for the government is not beyond a reasonable doubt to deny you your constitutional right. It's a clear and convincing standard. So a lower standard to take away your fundamental liberty when you didn't commit any crime. If that's not a violation of due process, I do not know what is. And all this will be, the Title I of this bill, it'll all be administered by the Biden administration Department of Justice. The same Department of Justice that got a letter from a left-wing political organization and 5 days later sent a memorandum to every single U.S. attorney in this country saying this: set up a dedicated line of threat communication on parents, use counterterrorism measures against moms and dads who had the nerve to show up at a school board meeting and speak up for their kid. And then 16 days after that memorandum went out, the FBI sends an email out and says put a threat tag, a designation, a label on moms and dads who did show up at school board meetings, who someone filed a complaint about on that snitch line, and investigate them. That same Biden administration Justice Department will be administering this law. That is why we are so against this measure and why it is so darn dangerous. They can say all day long it doesn't violate due process. It most certainly does, and it's going to be administered by a Justice Department that's already proven they're willing to go after parents who speak up for their kids. That's why this bill is so terrible. And why Republican senators are pushing this and trying, as Mr. Gates from Florida said, trying to bribe states to implement this when we have the history of the Biden Justice Department and we know what this thing is going to look like and how it's going to violate due process. That's what's wrong with this legislation and why Republicans, why we're so darn against this thing. I hope they will come to their senses and stand up for the law-abiding American citizens and their fundamental liberties and vote this thing down. Madam Speaker, we reserve.